Wow. So that brings up an interesting point that you discuss in your book about labeling. On both ends of the spectrum, you know what I mean? Like a kid being gifted, a kid having mental illness. At some point, yourself being a child psychologist, you have to actually apply those labels to different individuals. Just that concept of, compartmentalizing children. Ultimately, is that helpful? Ultimately,
it's very unethical. To me, it's a human rights abuse. And I would even argue that the mental health exploitation of black children and the miseducation of black children not only constitutes a modern day Holocaust, I think it's one of the greatest examples of human rights abuse in the world today. Right. Like we hear about the genocides, and we hear about hunger, and we hear about political oppression. Right. What about the miseducation and mental health exploitation of black children? It's right up there.
Right.
But to your point, 3 reasons I have an issue with child mental health, even though I'm in child mental health.
Right.
Issue number 1, children are not self-referred for therapy.
Right.
What does that mean? If I'm 8 years old, right?
Right.
If somebody says I need an ADHD evaluation because I'm too hyper or I cannot focus, did I ask for that evaluation?
Not at all.
How many 3rd grade black boys have you seen go looking for medication?
Right.
They don't.
Right.
It's the adults who are inconvenienced by the child who say he needs to be tested. You see that?
They didn't have
the
the
child ain't
patience to
looking
do
for
it.
no medicine or no therapy.
Right.
He loves being who he is.
Right.
So the first ethical issue is children don't refer themselves.
Right.
It's adults that force them to get evaluated.
Right.
It's adults that give them the Ritalin, the Adderall, the Concerta, the Vyvanse, the Meditate, not the child.
Right.
So when some people say, I'm an adult and I have ADHD, the medication works for me.
Right.
That's not a contradiction with the problem I have with childhood psychiatrics because you're an adult.
Right.
So you can refer yourself. You can also speak eloquently as to the side effects that medicine is causing in you.
Right.
But that 8-year-old can express the fact that I can't go to sleep because of this medicine.
Right.
You know, that my hunger, my appetite is different because of this medicine.
Right.
You see, I'm sleeping too much because of this medicine. That child isn't old enough to know that that medicine might affect his ability to have children later on in life. They don't know that that medicine is beginning to trigger psychotic symptoms, homicidal, suicidal ideation. So if an adult wants to look at it, you're an adult, you can protect yourself.
Right.
An 8-year-old cannot. Right. The second ethical violation is it's all about the money. The American Psychiatric Association is indebted to the drug companies. They run it.
Right.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
We talk about politicians being indebted to the corporations.
Yeah.
Well, the American Psychiatric Association is indebted to the drug companies.
Right.
All of which publicly trade on Wall Street.
Wow.
And they fund the diagnoses.
Wow.
Because they create these medications that need to be sold so they can make dividends for their investors.
Right.
So they go to the APA and say, listen, we got a new medicine, so you got to create a disorder to feed this medicine.
Wow.
How much do they make off ADHD meds a year? $30 billion.
$30 billion?
$30 billion a year.
Shoot, that's the drug game right there.
It's the drug game. Speaking of that, that's my third issue.
Yeah.
The Drug Enforcement Agency of America classifies Ritalin as a Schedule II drug. Ritalin is in the same category as opium and cocaine. This is the government.
Wow.
Ritalin is in the same category as opium and cocaine. So let me get this right. You got black men going to jail out the wazoo for selling crack, right?
Right.
Most black men in jail are there for non-violent, drug-related offenses.
Right.
If selling drugs is so bad, if using drugs is so bad, if it's bad enough to send a boy's father to jail, how can it also be good enough to give to his son so he can sit still long enough to learn about Helen Keller, Anne Frank, and Christopher Columbus?
Wow.
If drugs are wrong, drugs are wrong.
Right.
You can't say it's wrong for adults to use them, but we can give them to children so they can get an education. That's a total contradiction. Crack is crack no matter what name you sell it under. Ritalin, which is methylphenidate, okay, is only a molecule away from crack. It has the same side effects as crack.
Wait, Ritalin is a molecule away from crack.
Crack cocaine is synthesized coke.
Wow.
You see, so when they talk about, mass incarceration of black males, and at the same time, you're hyper-medicating black boys. Look at this. You're mass incarcerating black men for selling drugs.
Right.
But you're hyper-medicating black boys with the same drug that sent his father to jail.
Right.
That is hypocrisy.
Absolutely.
And no one's calling the United States Department of Education, the pharmaceutical industry. Nobody's calling the American Psychiatric Association to task because so much money is being made from this, Nick. Everybody eats. The psychiatrists eat. The school eat. The clinic eat. The therapists eat.
Right.
And the parents can get Social Security money.
Right.
Everybody is eating off the modern day medical lynching, mental health lynching of black boys.
Wow.